are really important here as well. They will take us to red side. Not surprised by this in the slightest. And we'll see what T1 are going to prioritize, because I don't think it's going to be a Zyra first pick for them. It'll be a ban, in fact.
Yeah, and I think you still have that degree of flexibility in the bans when you are on the blue side. One really difficult thing when you're on a new patch in a tournament playing the very first time is that side selection isn't necessarily intuitive as you go from patch to patch, right? You don't necessarily know what picks are going to be the strongest and what picks aren't necessarily going to work out. And therefore, it's really hard to determine whether blue side having that first pick, getting that really strong choice is going to be the best thing, or whether it's more about answering what your opponent's going to do. And so far, we've seen that red side has kind of worked out with T1's very eclectic draft, and we'll see what BLG is going to do with the red side this time around.
I love that Sejuani ban to come through here by BLG, because some of the real big issues for them when they were trying to press their advantage, their control over the map, was punished by Glacial Prisons and, you know, shouldn't being out of position, getting caught by Oner. Then follow-up came through from Keria, weakens the Kai'Sa pick substantially. So of these 4 bans we've seen until this Kalista, that was my favorite so far. As Kalista will be taken away from Elk, the Rumble will once again be gone. Where do T1 take us is the big question right now here in this first pick. Could just be a safe Tristana lock-in. Skarner, we haven't seen just yet, is laning taking a big hit with some of the stat stick nerfs we saw from him or on him on this patch. It'll be the Senna that's left open as well. And you know, the tax of taking away the Faker Azir, right, the Guma Sejuani, you can't give Rumble over, is that this is a Senna lane that we have seen T1 dominate with so many different supports. I mean, this is T1's bread and butter.
I mean, it's also BLG's bread and butter, so they know exactly what this is capable of. The Corki going to go into Knight's hands. I think when it comes to the tier list of, you know, Knight being comfortable on AD carries in the mid lane, this is definitely his best. Even on the Corki, he hasn't necessarily had standout games. He's had some pretty standout KDAs, and they still have a gigantic win rate with him piloting the little plane. So looking forward to seeing what can happen here as another Yordle being considered. The Tristana here for Faker taking the other side of the matchup. We saw the mid lane. It was a bit of a wash, right? It's not like, oh, I'm going to take the other side of the matchup, and I'm going to beat you in it this time as well. It was more of a wash. It was more about how these team fights were played out as the game went on. And so a lot of power picks here going to be picked up.
The Nidalee, I think, is pretty self-explanatory in this draft. And if you were going to get your pick of the litter for AP junglers with double AD carry, these were the picks we were always going to see. Tristana, Nidalee with that Senna. We haven't really seen T1 do too much AP jungling, especially when you compare Oner to Shun, who's played almost exclusively AP junglers in the LPL. Now, his highest played is the Brand, his most played jungle champion of the LPL season. And it looks like they want to lock that one away before it can be banned here. A lot of stuff to talk about with how Brand interacts in early skirmishes, his damage output in the later game, and his fast clear as well. But he is somewhat vulnerable in a draft like this, the same way he was, of course, with the Zyra pick in Game 1. See how well they can protect this pick now, because this is the toughest part about banning supports away from Keria and a Senna lane. He can play anything. He'll play the Ornn, he'll play the Poppy support, he'll obviously play the Nautilus. They took that one away right off the bat. He's played Wukong in this position.
He's played Lee Sin.
Yeah, there's so many different ones he could pick.
Yeah, there are definitely plenty of choices that that Keria can go towards, but the Ornn, certainly the best one, and of course in the LPL as well, they are playing a fair bit of the Senna Ornn down there as well, and in fact, seems to be more popular than the Nautilus variant after what we saw at MSI, really proving that the Blacksmith has been very, very powerful.
Tahm Kench, the other big one, obviously, that is going to be taken away. These are the two you always see. So the Senna pick for T1 always takes 2 bans as well with it, because the power of the Tahm Kench, the Ornn, or the Nautilus with this pick is just too much to deal with. So we'll see what this final AD carry ban is going to be towards Elk. We still have picks like the Varus to consider. We'll actually target this towards the Twisted Fate, and you know, K'Sante is available for BLG to just take away themselves instead.
I think it's very interesting that it's the Twisted Fate ban instead of the Ezreal ban, because Ezreal pretty obviously an option for Elk to pick up. Of course, did spend a little bit of time hovering some other options. But,
Smolder.
Yeah, fiery theme. You do like that. But I'm hoping that he just goes back to the Ezreal. Never mind, it's going to be the Ziggs Thankfully, we have Orcs waiting in the studio to break this one down. Of course, as far as Valdanalist picks as well. I mean,
they love the
Ziggs mains. That means that we know exactly what the segment's going to be after this game.
Well, the answer here for T1 I'm really curious about because Ziggs can push any support incredibly well.
Oh, Maokai is still up?
Still up. You know, relatively lower prio, it seems like, from whisperings we've been hearing on this patch, but it's going to be played, of course, in the support position in this game. And now will be Zeus's blind jungle, or top pick, excuse me, here. Twisted Fate was banned, so we could just go the Cassante route here and be a front line for the double AD carry. They've got great setup for the spears as well, but he's going to opt into Bin with the Aatrox blind. The bravery of this man.
Bin can just go for the Camille matchup, or he can go for the Gnar matchup. Of course, Gnar really, I mean, we've seen this for so many years, right? Aatrox into Gnar. It's not going to be that, though. Of course, he's going to pick Camille. He has to pick Camille, because this has been, and if I was a T1 fan, I'd be very, very scared of what's going to happen on that top side of the map, because of course the setup for Oner isn't exactly targeted, right? From the Aatrox. You do have some knockups, you do have some ways to try and get Oner in there, but Bin can be so tricky on this Camille. We know exactly how well he pilots this champion.
My concern with the Camille pick in this draft, though, is going to be the Maokai. The ability to lock this Camille down with the ultimate, prevent her from flanking, prevent her from finding those engage angles. Senna, very immobile. Nidalee, to a certain extent, can also be punished if she's caught by a flanking Camille, but the Tristana is going to be relatively safe. You know, isn't going to be necessarily, you know, it always feels kind of like, okay, well, I can lock down Tristana. She can't jump away. This is a counter to Tristana, but if she could just kind of keep herself at arm's length and make it really difficult for you to engage.
Is so good into Hextech Ultimatum. And I think if T1, like, if Faker just holds onto that ultimate, it's going to be so hard for Bin to do the Bin thing, right? Where he just executes on a flank angle and just destroys a priority target. He is so incredibly good at doing that, and Faker, he has to be the one to answer. He has to be the one that is capable of dealing with what Bin's able to throw at them.
Yeah, I am most concerned about how team fights are going to go. I'm not worried about Bin's laning at all. I think he will be, this is going to be a really exciting one to watch. Two iconic picks for two of the world's most famed top laners of all time. So that's an exciting one we get. So as a caster, I'm really going to enjoy it. But in team fights later on, I think he's going to have a big edge, or he's going to have a lot of side lane control. The Ziggs damage output also against double AD carry is going to be a little bit low in terms of damage throughput. You have a Corki, you have a Ziggs, so you don't have a lot of long-term damage in team fight. You have a lot of upfront damage, and if Corki has that front line, maybe he can get something done, but a risky draft to be sure for BLG.
No, I agree, but a fun one. This is going to be really exciting as we dive onto Summoner's Rift once again here for game number 2. It is do or die for BLG. Remember, this is single elimination. This is like so incredibly fast, and everything can be taken away at a moment's notice. Any hesitation and you could be absolutely punished. And remember, the prize money is just doubled every time you win. And so it is absolutely gigantic. If T1 are able to win this, then they move into the semi-finals. Look to await their next opposition. BLG, there are 2 games that they have to win if they want to keep their hopes alive for putting their frame on the totem.
2 for 2 for Oner Spears, by the way.
Oh, there we go.
That's the start you want to see.
As, well, I mean, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. As Faker is just going to jump on top of Shun. Shun may have to flash extraordinarily early in this game, and he does so. Faker still looking for a little bit more, but a Brand without flash, that is very, very scary for BLG.
Already squishy, already so vulnerable. No pot on this Brand either. And it's going to be able to regen with a little bit of the changes to the jungle pets and how you can get your health back quickly, even if you are chunked down. But the lack of the flash, as you mentioned, is the real big one here. And, you know, they will be able to normally clear here. It's not going to be the end of the world for Shun. We're not going to see, you know, a follow-up here from T1 to punish his flash early, very likely. But still, just off of a little bit of aggression from Faker, feeling really great about this one. Now, it does, of course, change how Faker can trade with Knight at level 1 because he did go for the rocket jump first. So Knight's going to be feeling a small bit of a nice feeling for this one.
Yep. And I mean, it used to be the thing that you used to do on the Tristana just in general, take rocket jump early. And we saw Faker getting a bit of extra damage down for that. Of course, now in the Corki matchup, he does like to just press Gatling gun and stand there. And so often the explosive charge is pretty important, but Faker will have that level 2 pretty quickly, and you can see so far trading relatively effectively into this Corki. And I find this matchup so fascinating because there have been so many different takes around the world as to who's supposed to win this. In the LCK, we see Tristana pretty much dominate as Satchel Charge going to come on through here. Keria going to use the Twisted Advance to try and get himself out of the way as the Piercing Darkness comes down onto On. And that's confusing as Hook is going to connect down to Gumayusi. He has the barrier to avoid that damage, but On may have overextended. Titan's Wrath comes in. Elk just free firing with these rockets. Rockets? More like bombs, Atlas. You silly Billy. But On's still able to get out of there. Flash now burnt, but Flash had to be used by Keria there as well. Relatively even on that trade, and On gonna have that back interrupted momentarily.
Yeah, I feel like this was not the exchange that Elk and On were looking for. Obviously, Ziggs can do a lot. He has a lot of burst damage, even in these early levels. You hit the satchel charge, but Ascena is going to be able to maintain that damage, and her Q is going to be able to offer a little bit of sustain. Ends up getting both of them with that one, so some additional damage coming through. I don't think that On and Elk calculated for that one, so really quick reaction from Keria as well to turn things around. As On
going for a pretty early run here, as he does get sent back home pretty early. Elk is now completely out of mana there towards the bottom side of the map, so he's probably pretty keen on getting a reset angle himself, but not before Knight gets a bit of support, potentially, in this mid lane.
It's common to see...
trying to go for an invade.
Yeah, it's common to see the roams here. Okay.
Yeah, Hook gonna get the flash out of Oner here, actually. Not able to transform in time to get the pounce to avoid it, and just doesn't want to mess with On.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable flash there, so big value. I was going to say it's common to see a roaming support with the Ziggs because he has teleport, right? He's just going to sit there under the turret, farm it out, then back and teleport back to lane, grabs his tier here and a refillable. So going to be feeling pretty good about that, but feeling much better about the fact that On is able to grab a flash away. So two junglers now flashless after the early game. This top lane we haven't watched all too much. Been trying to trade, of course, with his shield a little bit here, but finds himself a little bit down on CS, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, the early game is always going to be a little bit more difficult for the Camille. There is ebb and flow in this matchup, but Zeus is very, very good at the Aatrox as well, so you can understand why it's going the way it is. Definitely, I feel like it's going better for Zeus than I was expecting moving into this one. But still, I'm not going to count out Bin on his very famous Camille this time around. Gumayusi getting some vision down as Keria trying his best to just exist as a tree in this bottom lane. And it is proving difficult. The landmines being thrown down by the Ziggs, quite frustrating. And Gumayusi will come down for some healing support as BLG given an opportunity to move into the river now.
See Ben just going to be able to comfortably catch this wave here. We're going to see a back from Zeus. He's not going to actually commit to any sort of mid lane play. Faker
probably not wanting to rocket jump right then, but the Hook is going to go entirely wide as the minion wave was there to protect Faker from that one. And so not perturbed, just happy to continue fighting and brawling as Shun comes on over. Pillar of Flame is going to connect as the stun just barely not able to land onto Faker. But Faker is playing with a lot of gusto, man. Like, this guy is not looking afraid of anything at all.
No, he's certainly not. And, I mean, knowing the minion wave is there feels relatively safe against a potential on-gank. Zeus hitting the sweet spots here. Oner is here, he's seen. Bin is going to have to respect it.
Yeah, you can see Zeus just trying to thin the wave here as much as possible as Oner is slinking around, as cats do like to do. Now I wanted to come over and catch any sort of rotation here for Shun, who is on vision as well. Spears flying through, not connecting, as that's a decent Infernal Chains connecting onto Bin there, who does get the shield back, doesn't get very much use out of it.
That's such a valuable ward because it allows Zeus and Oner to communicate about the trading patterns here and say, look, keep trading with him. I'm closer. I know exactly where he is. I'm going to try to slow him down with a spear. He can't all in you because I have the fast track. And not only is that going to lead to a good trade in the top lane, but it's also going to allow T1 to take advantage on Grubs. Knight coming over now, but it's going to be tough to contest. Hex Flash will get on closer.
Oh, Oner's even able to grab the third one there. Kind of huge, as I think that T1 utilized this the best. I feel like they prioritize Grubs so highly because the amount of souls that come out of that thing, and Gumayusi going to be able to grab all of them. And so once again, T1 going to look to try and push ever further as Gumayusi coming towards that top side. Then getting that ward down, but Zeus just holding him in place. Hextech Ultimatum is there, but it's not going to be all that useful in this moment. He is able to get himself out. No teleport. He just come back to
TP'd,
lane.
yeah. That's the timing of this. He just TPs back to lane, but because T1 have that topside grub control, they get a huge advantage. Now, cross map here, they are going to be able to take away this red buff from T1. That's a bit of a trade here in mid, but does feel like a huge win for T1 in every regard. Bin is being put behind significantly now in this early game. The wave is away from him as well. And you have 3 grubs for a Tristana. Denied those from a side laning Camille. And even though it's an even gold game right now, T1 picking up all the big advantages.
Yeah, it's feeling like that. BLG should be able to get this dragon, though. That is certainly going to get them into a much better position. As Ocean for first, we're hoping that it's Chemtech for second dragon, then we're guaranteed a pretty spicy soul, which we would very much like. Smite comes down, that's going to be Mountain as dragon number 2. As now, T1 just looking to catch this wave towards the bottom side. And scaling's a really fun conversation to have in this game. Because
absolutely.
There's Senna who scales to infinity, we know that, right? Faker's gonna draw beads, utilizing his passive on the Tristana. We mentioned the Tristana scaling a lot. It's gonna have to hold that thought for a moment. The Mega Inferno Bomb comes down as in Gumayusi in so much trouble. The Nature's Grasp comes in, but that is going to be the first blood going over to Elk on his Ziggs. On gets that shield back as well as the flash from Keria. Needs another auto and he will not find it. And now Elk at full health should be able to take down the tree. And there he goes. 2 for nothing on the bottom side in the 2v2.
Yeah, big miscalculation there from Keria, and I think actually looking for the smash timed with the shield expiring, but actually messing it up and putting it into that shield there really costs him, as he needs that extra auto and he won't have it. Flash down for both bottom laners here for the side of BLG, but it's traded for T1s, and Shun is going to be fine here. Traded for T1s, and they end up getting 2 kills for the Zig, so he is now massively accelerated in this early game. It was a little bit of a chess game between these two teams in terms of positioning, in terms of the trading we were seeing, but now it's getting a little bloodier, and BLG take a 1K gold lead off the play.
Yeah, that is absolutely massive, and maybe that conversation about scaling is less and less relevant as Zeus thought he was in a 1v1. He is absolutely not, as the World Ender comes in. Oner is here to try and help out. Let's see whether he can keep himself alive, but the answer is no. There is so much damage, especially coming out of this brand, and BLG will take their 3rd. They are starting to run away with it.
Oh, they really are. Now a potential punish here.
Yeah, Oner pounces over the wall, and it looks like we're going to have backs channeled. Not too much else gained here, as T1 were thinking about it, not actually able to make it happen. Bouncing bomb flies down, and Elk just going to be able to clear this wave out at his leisure.
Yeah, now even with that kill going over, it went over to the brand, which is quite common, obviously, with how the champion works. Does steal a lot of those away. Doesn't go to the Camille. Still ends up being, despite Zeus' death, a significant advantage for him in the top side. He's still up 15 CS. He's actually going to be able to walk back to lane and not utilize his teleport, so that's an extra tool he has in his arsenal right now. So big win for BLG, but T1 not down and out just yet, able to get some small edges from this. And with 3 grubs to T1, we'll see how this next set of grubs shakedown goes, because this is where you can really deny Camille a lot of side lane power and make the Tristana a huge threat later on if T1 can secure these. As they spawn here, we're going to see a big group up. Elk does have teleport as well to potentially join this fight. Keria can match, and BLG, with the prio they have right now, it looks like T1 not going to mess with this one. They're going to be happy to trade 3 for 3.
Yeah, Shun is able to take these so incredibly quickly as well on the brand. Pillar of Flame doing some pretty mean damage at this point in time. So it should be 3 for 3 once again as we move towards Herald coming up next here in this Baron Pit. Spear not going to be able to take one. I like the opportunistic play there from Oner to see whether he can possibly snipe something, but not able to do so. As once again, it feels like T1 had this explosive beginning to the game, and despite the fact that it didn't result in any kills, it was still them with a fair bit of control. And then BLG finding their answer back. This time around, though, it was a lot earlier.
Yeah. Some first strike value coming over to Elk here in this lane. I really like that choice of rune. We didn't really talk about it too much. We've seen a lot of different runes on Ziggs depending on the matchup, but in the Senna one here where you're facing off against a Maokai that you can constantly harass when it is just you against the Maokai alone, it's going to generate a lot of income for this Ziggs that's already so far ahead.
Well, might be getting taken down a peg or 2 here as he is looking to run away. Spear not going to connect. Nice sidestep there from Elk, but still the swipe damage is decent. As Oner is going to heal himself back up. As another ulti out of On as he moves towards this top side. Bin can throw down the Hextech ultimatum. And now Zeus nowhere to go. Finds the sweet spot. It was decent. Worldender is doing a fair bit of work, but On still able to tank that turret shot, and he will be A-OK. Meanwhile, here on the bottom side, Shun is going to be punished. Oner almost taken down there. The brand passive is so dangerous, but he's still going to be able to take this Gromp down, and T1 still able to get that cross map off.
Yeah, no ult here for Elk to impact the play further, so it is just going to be a little bit of a steal away on the jungle. Zeus unable to flash during that moment top side there with On. If he gets that flash off and gets away, maybe he could have traded one back. He played it so beautifully, but ultimately is still taken down with all that lockdown there, the Nautilus and the Camille. So Zeus now the lead kind of withering a little bit. As you can see, the damage is coming through. We'll watch this play here, bottom side. We missed the beginning of it. That's just Shun getting caught here by the end of Keria's ultimate. The teleport comes through in response here from Elk, but nothing he can do on the play.
Yep. Pretty cool that Keria is also utilizing his ex-teammate Juhan's skin as well on the DRX Maokai. Very, very cool stuff.
Do love to see it.
Yep. At least I believe they were on DRX at similar.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
It might have been, unless... Wait, were they on Humble Life Esports at the same time?
I don't...
No, that was Johan.
Yeah, you're thinking of Johan, Arthur. That was a different time, but we digress.
It was definitely a very different time, and yes, we are indeed digressing.
Old LCK casters, you know, sometimes we just gotta remember the old days.
Old LCK casters that remember things wrongly sometimes. As flash out of the way from the phosphorus bomb here from Faker, really respecting Knight's damage as he was trying to get some more plate gold. Turret is going to fall there on the bottom side, and of course Ziggs, he is always going to win those, and now
he's so ahead.
Looking for even more. So this inner turret is now under fire. Keria dealing with the minions. No, there is one melee minion still left alive, and Bin is able to grab that kill, and they can keep pushing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like Keria's ult was just coming back online. I don't know if it really would have saved him, but it might have been able to buy some additional time. But T1 are just going to trade it for topside here. But it is going to be 2 turrets for 1. BLG with a massive gold lead, an insanely fed Ziggs, a brand that's about to finish his jungle item, or rather his pet, already picked up the Leandries early, has been clearing like a madman. Yes, Oner has cleared more minions, has been able to clear more of the jungle. But in terms of the impact here, it's definitely been Shun who's been the bigger winner here. So BLG completely in the driver's seat. Now T1 will get beyond just that top turret, the Herald topside objective that comes with this.
Yep, they will be able to take that one down as On just moving on in here. He's going to get pulled back, but Knight is there for the defense. Gumayusi is so squishy. Has to be very, very careful. Able to slink off into the mist and will be all right. But I thought that On might actually be a kill opportunity as Zeus sitting in this brush here. He's actually going to go back home and let On just get that vision in.
They had no idea, I think,
more than he could shoot.
Where Shun was, so they were just a little bit too scared to actually commit to the play. That movement there from On is so deceptive. It's like, why would he be up here? This is so insanely risky. Doesn't he know we're backing right here? He's alone. He must not be alone. We're not going to do that. We're just lost a flash, and they don't commit any further. The game here is still playable for T1, especially if we consider it's an Infernal Soul again in Game 2. And if they can stack those up, they definitely have a really, really strong late game win condition. But this Ziggs, how ahead he is, how much he can impact sides, and also what he can do in a team fight burst-wise just before the fight even starts off. And then some of that burn from the Leandries can win you an objective fight before it really even takes off, especially if we consider the engage here for T1 is relatively lackluster. They don't have an engaged jungler. The Maokai can help set up things, but he's not going to be the realistic, or rather the consistent engage that the Nautilus is going to be on the side of BLG. They've got the Camille as well, so definitely really liking the game state here for BLG.
Yeah, me too. Able to just walk up and take that outer turret in the mid lane as well. The Ziggs doing that execution with Satchel Charge. And Faker spending a bit of time there towards the top lane will be able to push that towards the inner turret that BLG now has to attend to. But this is such a long lane that Zeus is in right now. They get a glimpse of vision as Hook is going to connect there onto the Nidalee, and she'll just explode. It's a gank squad from BLG. And now Zeus, he knows that it's his number up next. Shun going to be the one to throw that pillar of flame in. Will get knocked up as Worldender comes down. 1 versus 3 is going to turn into 1 versus 4 very quickly. And as soon as the stun comes in, that is it for Zeus. BLG I mean, I think they got an inch earlier on, but they have definitely got a mile now.
Yeah, this is a much bigger lead than the small lead they had in Game 1. And unfortunately for T1, the path back into this game is so difficult. And the reason why that bottom side play transpired, excuse me, the way it did was because of the lack of vision there for T1. Zeus had an idea that obviously something was going to go on, but didn't know the angle and was cut off from his teammates, so couldn't really rejoin. And they just get collapsed on. As at least this back will commence here for Keria. Picks up his Merc Treads, but man, Atlas, it's so difficult to even describe how much power in these objective fights BLG is going to have, as the engage is not onto the Aatrox, but onto Oner, who's trying to cut a shadow and give him the opportunity to bring this back. Zeus is at least able to get a flash out, but is not able to collapse onto a kill.
Yeah, and Bramble Smash going to be decent disengage there as On does decide to go in.
I mean, you look at...
going to be able to utilize that.
If you look at the items here, I mean, Senna obviously takes a long time to get online. She's, stacking up and starting to become a little bit more of a threat, but she's sitting on a, nearly completed item, whereas Elkazon 2 has both, some additional burst with his ultimate and poke. And with the prio that BLG have right now, this Drake spawns in 30 seconds. I just see no way T1 can contest this.
Well, Keria might also be in trouble here as the hook is going to land once again. Nature's Grasp comes down. They're going to look for the re-engages on. Possibly overextended and indeed will go down. T1 grabbing themselves a pick. That could be huge with the Dragon coming up.
Yeah.
The BLG are still very scary.
Very big opportunity here for T1. They're going to try to drop this Herald to get some additional prio here, and it will take BLG some time to deal with that. Dragon hasn't spawned just yet. It's up in 5. They're just going to opt to try to defend this turret instead, get some additional time for On to respawn and rejoin. T1 don't have a big wave here, no way to take this turret out, so BLG will just weather the storm, regroup for that Dragon. So small victory here for T1 on the punish, but the objective still looks very much BLG's.
Yep, it's also the shortest of the death time is on the side of BLG as well. So On back on the Rift very, very quickly. So like you were saying, that is going to be Soul Point being picked up for BLG. And T1 are just trying to get as much time as they can. I don't know whether it gets better by doing that. I think giving up this Dragon is something that they have to do, but they might have to give up the next one as well. And yes, they managed to beat BLG with an Infernal Drake in game number 1. I think the game state is going to dictate that it's going to be much more difficult to replicate here in game number 2.
Yeah, and there's just not a lot of space for Faker to get value cross-map. He's sitting on 3 grubs, so that's a decent push with this Tristana, but the Ziggs is a really much larger threat in terms of turret destruction here. And when you look at how team fights can go, obviously if On overextends and he pushes too far forward, the re-engage is good from T1. You can punish that. It's not tank Nautilus, it's not the actual farming Nautilus like the Maokai is, much tankier. It's a bit of an error there of judgment by BLG, but there's just so many different ways to peel, for example, of T1 collapsing on somebody when Keria goes in, Faker trying to get that reset, because you've got a Camille, you've got the damage output of this Corki, so T1 really have to play passively, but like you said, it doesn't get better from here. You have to make some sort of proactive play, but the BLG's vision control in both games has been so phenomenal. It's just hard to find an angle.
Yeah, it's just so hard to get towards a Ziggs composition, right? If the Ziggs is playing very well, these Hextech minefields, and with the backup of a Brand, I mean, you don't see that much of the Brand Ziggs combination. It works out very, very well as far as controlling space, not to mention putting a Hextech ultimatum on top of it where you just don't get to leave.
It's only Elk's second time playing the champion this year as well. It's not like this is a big mainstay setup that he picks a lot of the time, but I think considering how this game is shaped out, it's been way more valuable than the Smolder they considered, which has been kind of an old classic scaling counter to the Senna. The Ziggs winning out this early is exactly what you want.
Oner's able to pounce his way out as another Nature's Grasp comes on in. More defensively utilized here for T1 as there's 3 minutes on this next Dragon. Baron up and available here, but has only been around for about 45 seconds. That means that it's not exactly an easy task to take that one down, even though BLG do have that 3,500 gold buffer over T1 right now.
Yeah, T1 trying to get some control over the Baron pit, but we're still only 21 minutes into this game. It's a Senna composition. And yeah, you've got Leandries on the Nidalee, but you don't really have the opportunity to threaten a Baron, so BLG can just kind of come over. They have insane wave clear with the Ziggs, and the Brand as well can kind of help out here. Just say, well, you had vision control for just a moment. It's mine now again. And Bin is about to become a much larger side lane threat than what they've been dealing with thus far.
Yeah.
T1 just trying to find these small opportunities. Maybe On overextends. Maybe we can catch Elk if he's trying to look for a little bit too much poke damage. But it's just so methodical, so clean, the way BLG, both games, again, played around this same scenario, clearing waves, getting prio.
As Elk throws down another Mega Inferno Bomb, that one's going to be entirely avoided there by T1. So on cooldown for a little while, but ability haste coming through here for Elk, so we'll have that one up relatively soon, and we'll definitely have it for
power move
fight around this Infernal Drake. Exactly right.
I don't need my ult.
You got to send a message.
Yeah.
You know?
What a power play.
And it would have been a lot of damage if it had landed there as well. So definitely good that T1 were able to sidestep it. Total gold, you can see Elk and Knight, both carries for BLG, really starting to rake it in. And a Ziggs that is accelerated is a very scary thought because he just does so much damage in such a wide AoE.
I mean, look at how far behind on the curve Faker is. It's really, you know, it starts to feel doomed here for T1. It starts to feel unwinnable. And we're not at that game state just yet, but you know, Faker sitting on 2 items here, if given an opportunity, absolutely can pop off and get resets in a team fight. But the oppressive vision control is hard to circumvent. Now, T1 are just going to do the Hail Mary Baron because they got to pull BLG to them somehow because BLG just playing back and playing safe.
Yeah.
Bin does have TP.
He does have TP, but he's just continuing to walk. They just trust that they'll be able to get them off this Baron without actually using the teleport. You can see now he's in the minion wave. He's on vision. T1 going to try and keep this leash as the flash forward from Keria gets the flash out from Shun. He's trying to keep himself in there. Into the pit goes Zeus. Keria goes down. There is the Baron secured. But can they actually keep themselves alive as Faker is just going to get thrown around like a ragdoll? There is the takedown onto Bin, though, who tries to get it. It's a double kill for Knight. Some redemption for the mid laner here as Zeus and Oner walking the wrong direction, trying to get themselves over these walls and into safety. They have the Baron, but how many will be able to keep it and tell the tale is the question.
Looks like just Oner.
Zeus, there's a few too many bad guys around him at this point in time, so Oner killed the Baron, and he's the only one that gets to keep it.
BLG played that so clean, constantly threatening the teleport, but wanting to keep it, because if you get T1 off that Baron without actually committing the Camille teleport, you also get more turret gold as well in the bottom lane. You probably open that one up. T1, he kept hiding in the bottom lane, showing maybe I'm teleporting. You don't know, I could have a flank ward. T1 held firm though, they held strong. Keria looks for the flash engage play to push BLG off of it, but it's a great ultimate there from Bin as well.
Oh,
another fight.
The hook comes in from On. Hex Flash was utilized as everyone used their flash in that last fight. There is not a lot of summoner spells left available as the Hex Tech Minefield. They just can't walk through it. And T1 are going to give the Infernal Soul again. Mega Inferno Bomb not going to be avoided, but at least Gumayusi didn't stand in the middle of it. Still takes massive amounts of damage. And so BLG, from strength to strength, and just incrementally this gold graph up and to the right for BLG. Despite losing out on the Baron, it's only plus 700 right now on that power play, so not really feeling too powerful.
No, I feel like there's a pretty good chance it's going to go into the negatives once this turret starts to fall. At least Zeus is trying to push the bottom lane. But Keria's engage opportunity here is really thin. He's punished instantly. The ult from Guma does do a decent amount of damage, but look at Bin getting over the wall here onto Faker. You talked about the Buster Shot interaction, but the fight is completely split. Nothing T1 can do, using everything they had to try to take down the Baron. And it feels like it's BLG that has a Baron buff. They don't, but gonna force Zeus to TP.
Oh, that's a big TP flank here from Zeus. Let's see what they can actually do. Remember, they're fighting into an Infernal Soul. So, yes, it's a gold lead, but it's even more than that. With the Infernal Soul available, now Nature's Grasp coming in. Can they actually line them up, find some of these snares? There's the triple root from the mouth. Oh! Boom goes the dynamite. Down goes Knight as Faker rocket jumps his way to safety. Bin going to be eviscerated immediately as the Mega Inferno Bomb goes to Narnia, and that's not going to kill anyone. It's a spear connecting for the double. As Shun, he's still alive, and as it turns out, he's actually enough damage, kind of by himself. At least with Elk there as well, raining down these bouncing bombs. As T1, I think they won that fight, but it doesn't feel like a lot of control.
It doesn't feel like a lot of control. Gold lead still 3,000. Faker?
Oh yeah, still gonna go for it here as Shun wants to be able to land the abilities, and he does so. Oner gonna get slowed down as the minefield comes in, and that was weird, Wolf.
That was definitely not it. Faker seeking an opportunity here, saying, look, I'm Tristana. I'm sitting on nearly 3 items. That's a Ziggs. He doesn't have the damage output to trade with me long term, but the burst is good enough. They have enough AP damage there to just wipe them both out. Pretty puzzling decision, as this is a great ult setup here for Keria. The ultimate as well coming through from Guma, the Dawning Shadows, is going to be enough damage to make it look like maybe T1 have full control here. Faker bounces out, gets healed up by Oner, but you can see his reluctance to re-enter the fight, because there's just so much damage there. He's like, if we could get a pick, if I could get resets here on my jump, maybe we find something there, but he backs out, takes his opportunity in mid lane, and completely fails.
Yeah, and Knight didn't get a whole lot done. Of course, he popped pretty early in that fight, but you could see Elk and Shun really carrying those damage numbers.
He picks up a death cap and is halfway to a void staff as well after those gifts in the mid lane. He's been big from start to finish.
Well, hookshot comes through from Bin, but doesn't find Zeus with that one. Control ward going down as BLG look to suffocate T1 out of their jungle. And yeah, T1, they had that Hail Mary fight. They did find a few options. In like the isolated team fight, things looked good. The aftermath, not so great. And BLG retain all that control on the map here as Faker on that top side of the map, just trying to push out, getting towards his Infinity Edge one step at a time. But he still needs a BF sword and the recipe completion, as Gumayusi going to be pretty annoyed that that one landed. Looked kind of like he was out of it, but he was not, and takes about 1 trillion damage there from Elk.
And it's just
new cool hat.
It's rinse and repeat here for BLG. I mean, T1 made some proactive plays. That top side attempted teleport flank from Zeus obviously really helped stem the bleeding, but then the mid debacle where Faker and Oner committed and ended up losing out and giving more gold to this Ziggs means that we just kind of go back to, I push mid, I push waves out, I got a Camille in the side lane. We're setting up for an Elder fight in 2 minutes as...
All right, another Nature's Grasp comes in. They think that they found Knight. He is going to flash. Zeus had pre-ulted here as well. 2 minutes until the Elder, but it's 44 seconds on the Baron. BLG full control of that top side, as we can see.
It's going to cost Zeus more than an ultimate here for this flank attempt, as Camille is bearing down on this inner turret, and they're just going to wipe it out. Still 1 minute and 45 here. T1 put everything that they had into trying to make that play work. Another flank from Zeus, but that's all they've got. With the lack of engage we've been talking about, your best engage is going to be a flanking Aatrox, who now hits level 16. 90 seconds until Elder, but the poke is real, the wave clear is real, and BLG are just set up to walk to Elder, sit on that prio, and it's come at me, T1. I mean, look at this damage.
Oh my God, yeah, the bouncing bombs are absolutely gigantic as Oner almost just going down. He does have the Primal Surge. He can get that health bar back up incrementally, but this is Baron control in a nutshell here for BLG, and I don't think that T1 even is allowed to approach the area. Teleport to come forward here as Knight cleared out that bottom lane. And this Baron, uncontested this time around, BLG will be able to take it. And then they can use the extra pushing power in order to get those lanes full of minions, moving towards T1's base, and then full control of that Elder.
And I think taking the Elder and the Baron, getting Exodia, was never really something BLG thought were going to be on the cards until T1 kind of walked forward, looked for that attempt, and then you saw that damage come out. You saw Elk's ultimate, and with T1 getting that low, just off of a little bit of poke from the Ziggs, they're like, okay, well, we get Baron, and now guaranteed, we already had Elder prio, but now we've got it even harder here. You've got Bin with teleport, Baron buff. T1, how do you even walk towards this Elder? I mean, it is looking pretty doomed. It's an 8,000 gold lead here, nearly 7.5K that T1 have to face. And BLG, they're just not going to drop the ball in this one.
Yeah, it's looking like avoiding every bit of poke. That's going to be important. Keria doing a decent job as now Zeus
once again
flank angle once again, and he's teleported in, utilize that cooldown in order to get this opportunity, and let's see whether it's going to work out. As BLG not really taking too many risks at this point in time. T1 with a lot of healing, actually. Piercing Darkness and Primal Surge together. And now Nature's Grasp is going to come on through. Zeus wanting to find those knockups, but the push away is just too strong. Keria still getting into that backline, and so is Zeus, in fact. But Bin's going to turn up, and now Zeus is in trouble. Knight is able to take him down. Keria delivering Bin into the backline. May not be exactly what he wanted, and somehow he finds the wall with that hook shot. This this should just be the wipe, and BLG will even out the series as Faker is flashing to try and get out of the way, but the anchor of destiny from On will be able to pick him out of the air. That's the ace, and BLG will even out the series.
Looks like we're going to that game 3 we all wanted, Atlas. Beautiful satchel charge from Elk and Bin. That team fight was almost perfect. They don't even have to take the elder to take this one. BLG striking back in a much cleaner, more one-sided game than our first. And we're going to the conclusive game 3 after this. What a way to start off the first esports.